What is up, guys? We want to welcome you to another episode of the B.O.P podcast, Buckets Only podcast, exclusively here on Misfit TV. Misfit TV is all about entertainment and comedy coming straight to you. And today we have the J and J connection. As usual, we have Jay, and then we have Jake. How you guys doing today, man? I didn't want to do nothing elaborate today because my head still hurts. So
I feel you, bro. I'm just chilling right now. Just chilling.
All right. So, guys, I think it's been a very exciting week for basketball, and I think that we're going to have a great conversation today. First off, let's get into these 2K covers, man. I think that we got some cool stuff on there. You know who my personal pick is, which you're going to get into. But, yeah, let's get to talking. So, Jay, explain to us how you feel about these 2K covers, man. 2K.
Okay, so I guess for anybody who doesn't already know, which I mean that means you don't scroll through Twitter at all, but the covers that were announced was Damian Lillard, Zion Williamson, and Kobe Bryant as the legend cover. So personally, I have to be honest. I'm not a fan of any of them except for the Kobe one. The Kobe one makes the most sense to me, but personally, I think that the Dame one, as much as he's my favorite point guard in the league besides John Morant right now, which I'm going to explain the second part of this in a second. But he's my favorite player in the league right now at the point guard spot. But I don't think this was the year for him to be on the cover. I feel like all year there was talk surrounding the LA teams, and Kawhi Leonard is the hottest thing since sliced bread all year coming off of last season.
Has he ever been on one of the covers?
No, that's the thing.
I'm surprised.
And I mean, last year was kind of Kawhi's big coming out party in terms of being like an individual star, recognizing everything. But I mean, with all the hype and the talk around the two LA teams, and LeBron's already been on the cover, and I mean, Paul George has even already been on the cover. Like Kawhi Leonard just seemed like that dude. And even Giannis was on the cover last year. So it's one of those things where, like, I just kind of thought, like, okay, this was Kawhi's turn. So I have no beef with Dame being on it. But when I saw it, I was just like, for real? And then we got to get to Zion. Zion is an amazing player and all. But after 19 games to be on the 2K cover, man, so disrespectful. There was this guy that I found on Instagram that actually made like a variant cover that was like the John Morant version, and his caption was, "There needs to be 2 rookie covers." I'm like, nah, dude, there needs to just be one. They just got it wrong, like, to be honest with you. So I mean, out of the 3, I would say the Kobe one is the one I'm the most content with, but those other 2, like, they're deserving players, don't get me wrong, but it just felt like a weird year for it. I don't know if I'm just tripping, Jake, or where do you stand on that?
I agree. I mean, it seems like to put Dame on the cover, the Trailblazers, like if they ended the regular season today, they wouldn't even make the playoffs. It's like Dame himself is a great player, but this isn't his year. This is not the right time to put him on the cover. Like you said, Kawhi hasn't been on the cover, and yeah, I get that if you want to market it, people are going to be able to sign up for Dame more than Kawhi just because of their personalities. But you just look at it and you're like, Portland wasn't even a good team this year. They had good pieces. They had a dominant center in Whiteside. They had CJ McCollum to back up or to start at the shooting guard spot right next to Dame, and they couldn't do anything. This is not – I mean, Dame is a good individual player, but this was not his year. And then Zion, man, you can't turn this guy into the future of the NBA after he played 19 games. Like, that's just not something that you can do. You could have, I mean, if you're looking for the young next superstar, you put Luka up there. Even Jason Tatum, I wouldn't mind seeing. Tatum could have been on. I wouldn't have complained if I'd seen him on the superstar one like that Dame is in right now. Tatum's leading the Celtics with Kemba, and they are deserving of recognition. They don't get any. I don't know why the NBA felt the need to show off Dame and the 9th-seeded Portland Trailblazers when you Pascal Siakam is having an amazing, underrated year. I wouldn't say you put him on a cover just because he's not like a big-name player yet, but he's carried Toronto to the 2 seed. Why not put him up there? I just don't think it wasn't the right time.
Look at Big Baller Brand, bro. Look at what he was doing. His son didn't even play no damn games, and he was like, "Oh, he gonna beat up this guy. He gonna beat that guy, and everything like that." And he laid an egg.
I'll at least say that with the hype that these two received, like the difference between Lonzo and these two is that this hype just seemed premature, but it wasn't like they didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? The idea with Lonzo, the issue was it was more of like a target on your back scenario where at UCLA, like, yeah, he basically brought the program back in terms of like how they had performed the year before, transitioning to when he had first played there. But we were talking about a guy who, like, we spent most of that college season of his thinking that the only reason why he was getting drafted, where he was getting drafted, when he was getting drafted was because of all the talk. Dame is proven. Zion, I feel like, yes, 19 games hasn't given us what we like need to be able to say like he's got everything that
he got the tools.
A future superstar needs to have. But it's like, certain stuff is just kind of like you can feel it off people, and Zion's aura, the way he is with the media, different things like that, kind of just screams that he's gonna work. So it's not that they're unbecoming, or it's not that they don't deserve the cover. Again, they both players are players who are going to be on the cover at some point if they weren't on it this year, I feel like. But it just felt like this year was like a weird one for like them to just almost kind of like basically hand Zion that one. I saw another post earlier today that said like LeBron it took LeBron nearly 10 years to get on a 2K cover. It took Zion Williamson 19 games. Like, I don't know if that's just a social media era thing or what.
Between the two of them, which one did you guys pick? If you had to pick just between those two, we're keeping the Kobe one out of it.
Between Dame and Zion Williamson?
Dame and Zion.
I'm gonna say Dame because because when it comes to John Morant, man, I'm sorry, he's the one that should have been the rookie cover. And
Would you compare like Dame's personality to like a Russell Westbrook or something like that? Would you compare it to kind of like that where he's gonna be in the cameras and stuff like that, talking all the time and stuff, getting people riled up?
I feel like Dame isn't as big of a character as Russ is. Like Russ is he looks for beef. He's turning his head every which way, looking for someone to fight with and argue with. He's like a Joel Embiid. Dame is like a vocal player, but he doesn't get into it with other guys as much. He's like a silent killer. He just does his job, and he does it well.
Would you say Russ is like a modern day I can see the dude's face. Like, I can see his face in my head right now, but I can't remember his name. He was playing with Jordan at the time, the Chicago Bulls. Yeah. Would you compare it to that?
No, because there's a lot of stuff that took place with Pippen that
not Pippen. What was his name? Dennis Rodman. There you go.
Oh, Dennis Rodman. You're talking about in terms of just being a character.
Yeah, just being a character.
In terms of being a character, not on the same level. Dennis Rodman was just like, he was just a different breed. Like, to be honest with you, when it came to like the mental, like Dennis Rodman is just a different breed. But in terms of being kind of like okay in your own skin, willing to kind of put yourself out there as it is and still do what you have to do and do it at an excessive level, like, yeah, I feel like that's a pretty comparable lineup. And that's another thing. And I'm kind of glad you even brought up Russ, to be honest, in the conversation, because even he got more static this year after the whole thing with him and James Harden linking up, where like even he got more static to the point that like, yeah, I would take Dame over Russ, me personally, if I had to like rank point guards or something. But like in terms of this year, it was just like, again, like where did Dame come from? Dame spent a lot of time on the shelf, injured. His team was not playing well even when they were on the court. There was not a ton of buzz around them. And I mean, like, there's a point now where like they're starting to do like point guard rankings and things like that. And guys like Trae Young and Luka Doncic are like right on people like Dame and Russell Westbrook's tail. So it's like out of all the conversations that have been taking place all year, it's like, I don't know if like this whole hiatus just made people like forget about a lot of the storylines that was going on. But like it must not have been factored in to how Ronnie 2K decided on who was going to be on the cover.
No, that's how it happens.
I mean, the hiatus, it does make it tough because when they released the 21, like the 2K21 covers, they released it at the same time as they would have. So the hiatus didn't have any effect on the release date, which like usually the release date is after the season's over, after you see guys perform in the playoffs, after they get to make impressions. But they didn't have that this year, obviously. The most they had was, 50 or 60 games to go off of and no playoffs at all to choose, which makes it harder. But even with that being said, I don't think that justifies having a guy who played 19 games and a guy who led his team to a 9 seed. That in no way justifies that decision.
Talk about him because I get the feeling that they're just going to really run with that cover more than anything else and just really talk about that cover more. Like, what were your like reactions to that? I know for me, seeing him on that cover, I think that could transcend industries, having him on that cover, because when he died, everybody around the world cried over that because of how big of a, how much of an influence Kobe had on the game of basketball, but just on our society in general, which I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised about it because you didn't hear a lot of people talking about Kobe and everything like that the last couple of years until, ultimately he died. I was a little surprised by how many people he influenced. But again, he was one of the greatest basketball players of all time, probably one of the greatest of our lifetimes, who we're going to see. And he played with Jordan. He played with LeBron. That's something that not a lot of people can say that they did.
I mean, they never played in the finals or anything. That was one of the few things that, like, throughout Kobe's tenure that we just
never got a chance.
It's something that we never got. Some of the biggest what-ifs come in the form of just matchups that you just wanted to see. And him playing against Jordan in the finals, he was, in terms of them coming up in the early 2000s, Jordan was already on his way out. In terms of him and LeBron James going up against each other, a lot of Kobe's better years took place while LeBron James was still with the original Cavs. Yeah. So a lot of the what ifs kind of come from, victim of circumstance. Unfortunately, to kind of run with your question in terms of like what our reactions were to the cover. First thought was that's the one I'm pre-ordering regardless. I mean, I feel like everybody kind of, if you have the money, everybody tends to get the Legend Edition. Sometimes it's for the nostalgia part of it. Sometimes it's just because you want a little extra VC when you start the game so you can purchase more packs when you first hop on. Depends on where you stand with it. But I feel like the big thing about this year and just this year's drop in general, this is not Kobe's first cover. Like,
it's not.
Anybody who's played 2K long enough knows, like, Kobe has been on like 2 or 3 of these things already. Like, the most notable one being 2K10, which is like the one he has a jersey out, he's holding it out, he's going off. And that was probably one of the better games besides, I guess, maybe 2K12 or 2K13, the one that had Jordan on the front. So, I mean, genuinely speaking, like, I felt like if not him, then who? You know what I mean? Like, I guess if you went Legend Edition, we had a very great, like, Hall of Fame class this year with the fact that Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett are also going into the Hall of Fame with Kobe this year. So, yeah, either one of those two could go up there. But it's like, even if Kobe didn't die, right? Who else were you going to put on that cover? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like, again, maybe those can be like variant covers, putting like the old school Kevin Garnett, screaming like anything is possible or whatever, like that clip, or like Tim Duncan with the hat on for after his 5th championship, whatever the case is. But it's like when you think about 2K, you think about dynamic play. Most of the time, it's guards on the cover anyway. I mean, the last time we saw a big man on there was this past year with Anthony Davis. But besides that, like I think it was 2K11 or something like that had like Blake Griffin in them on there. But other than that, like you associate
you did
2K and most of the stuff. Well, there is, but we know how he is in terms of the hybrid guard big man thing too. So it's like he's not a the big fundamental in Tim Duncan is not a dynamic 2K flashy player. Nobody thinks Tim Duncan when you think, let me build a power forward in 2K. Maybe Kevin Garnett when you think about it, and maybe he would have been the next best choice. Mm-hmm. But like I said, like my initial thought was like, who else but this dude? Like who else but Kobe, to be honest.
Plus Tim Duncan, Tim Duncan is – I'm going to equate it to like wrestling real quick. It's kind of like if you put Ric Flair on our Macho Man Randy Savage over Hulk Hogan on 2K, WWE 2K 2020 or something like that on a Legend cover. It's kind of like that. Let's say all three of them, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and Macho Man, were all going into the Hall of Fame this year. Who would you put on that cover?
I feel that because they did the same thing when they put Stone Cold on the front, and it makes like entirely too much sense when you think about like who would you associate with not only the game style but like the type of people that typically like play these kind of games. Mm-hmm. Like
and one would transcend industries. You got to remember, like they with like a Tim Duncan or Kevin Durant, not Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett. My bad, Kevin Garnett. That's more of like industry, like people who are like diehard basketball fans and stuff like that. They will really appreciate that. But you got to think in the sales point of view, what is going to get them more sales? Having Kobe Bryant on there, regardless of if he died or not, would get more sales.
Exactly.
Then you can have like this whole media tour around it. Have Kobe go talk to people, do all this other stuff, have him go, sign autographs and things like that. That's what they could have done. And now they're doing it from more of a nostalgia tribute standpoint for people who miss Kobe. And now he might even sell more video games now than he would have sold if he was alive. And I know that that's a controversial topic, but it's kind of true.
It is true.
It's true.
I mean, I don't know. Like Jay said, I don't think there's any other choice. Like, you just can't market around a Tim Duncan.
You can't. You can't. And I'm a Spurs fan.
Similar. It's similar with Kawhi, though. It's like Duncan obviously wasn't as flashy as Kawhi, but like both of them don't have social media. Like Duncan.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Duncan basically fell off the face of the earth after his Spurs like Ring of Honor induction or whatever like tribute night they had for him. He showed up to that, and I haven't heard about the guy since then. It's like I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything about what Kawhi's been doing all the quarantine, but you see all these other guys posting, working out and stuff, and it's like it's just hard to market around those guys, and so I think that's why. I don't know. You got to do what you got to do. But yeah, I mean, I think they would have gotten flamed if they had put a Garnett or a Duncan up there.
Especially
I think at this point it was expected that they would do Kobe. And then after he passed away, it was like, okay, it's definitely going to be Kobe.
Yeah.
And they would have lost revenue if it had been Duncan. It's not that they wouldn't have gotten more, like they genuinely would have lost revenue from people that were saying like, what is this BS? No way. Sorry.
I think they could have did like a 3 thing if Kobe was still alive. If Kobe didn't die, they could have did like a little, they have their arms wrapped around each other, something like that, like get like some graphics of that. They could have.
There's a lot of different routes they could have taken, but like when you pick a cover athlete, like it was one of those things. And it's the biggest thing that I thought was interesting was the fact that there's 2 different variants of the Kobe jersey, of the Kobe cover. Like the way, because they had the whole commercial thing with the guy doing the paintings for him and stuff like that. And they're 2 different images of the same person in the same way you last visioned him as. Like, in terms of Kobe, the basketball player, which is the interesting part to me because you don't usually get a ton of like 2K variants. You know what I mean? Like you tend to get the present superstar, the future superstar, and the legend edition. It's usually always that. But when the legend edition, you almost kind of still get a little bit of options with that in terms of like what the cover is. It kind of just shows you just how not even close it was that it was Kobe or bust. Like, I mean, what were you gonna do if you did Garnett? You're gonna do what when he was with the Timberwolves, and then what when he was with Boston? Like, okay, cool, but again, like you said earlier, Antoine, like those who are like true NBA fans are the ones who might like appreciate that. But like 2K is not for the 2K is not for the OD fan. Like, yeah, they're gonna play because you just love basketball. But at the beginning, at the end of the day, 2K is just like a very competitive video game like anything else, like Fortnite or anything else. So at the end of the day, you know, you're gonna gravitate to what you can most relate or most associate yourself with. If you weren't one of the kids that in school balled up a piece of paper and yelled Kobe before you shot a trash can, you just weren't alive as long as I have. As long as I've been, which is okay. But even if you're not even 21 years old like I am, you know who Kobe Bryant is regardless. These other guys, it's not that you don't know them, but do you know them like you know Bryant? I doubt it.
Do you think that this showed the lack of star power in the NBA?
The covers?
The covers. Do you think that showed the lack of star power in the NBA? I'm talking about not the legend covers. I'm talking about the rookie covers.
The other ones.
Yeah.
I think that it might be the lack of creativity, low key. I mean, I don't know. Like, again, like I'm not the type to like bash on anybody or anything. I'm usually coming into this as the positive podcast mode, but it's like, again, I started the podcast off by saying I am biased. My second favorite guard in the league is Ja Morant, which means whether he was going to be the present day star or the rookie star cover, I figured he was going to be up there. I also, like I said before, believe that they were going to be on the cover at some point regardless. I feel like this year, with Zion, I think that it was just the hype all around. Zion has had hype since the Maui Invitational back in the NCAA last year. Like literally almost 2 years from where we are right now.
Man, I remember seeing Zion. He's the first basketball player that I've ever seen on Instagram when he was like a sophomore or junior in high school. Like he was like the first guy because like you would always see videos of like, oh, young breakout star. But like I saw Zion's like sophomore or junior year highlights and I was like, this kid's gonna be special. Like he's been around for a while. Like people have known who he is, which I think is what ultimately led them to making him the cover now because the hype is still there. And even though he only played 19 games, it shows that he's injury prone because of the injury at Duke last year. And then even the injury this year that caused him to miss the first however many games. And so I feel like there's that little bit of risk where you're looking at like a 300-pound guy who is putting all that pressure on his legs and his knees. And if he gets injured, and eventually you can't use him as that cover athlete. Like that was someone that people were going to go out and buy the game for. I think it was just a risky move that they had to make because if they didn't pick him, they potentially, who knows what's going to happen by next year at this time, right? He could have another injury.
He's looking good right now, though. He's looking good right now the way they posted him up on Instagram. Quarantine did but him some favors.
Come on, man. You can't believe everything you see. Any picture like that can be modified. You saw the thing. I'm gonna
take it to the grave till the restart starts. Alex Caruso has been photoshopped before, so I'll let it slide. But I don't know.
He was photoshopped and the NBA drug tested him like the next week.
Oh yeah, dang, yeah, you're right. Hey, I'm just gonna believe it till I see him on the court.
Yeah,
it made him look bad. Now I feel you. So, guys, Let's close out with this one and talk about just the coronavirus update and what's been going on, how's it affecting just these next couple of games and just them in and off this season. Let's start off with Jake. How you feeling?
Man, I'm ready to just grab my bowl of popcorn, sit down, and watch this first round, or the final 8 games in the first round for the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a battle to see who's gonna get crushed by Milwaukee. I mean, you have Brooklyn, who isn't gonna have Kyrie, they're not gonna have DJ, they're not gonna have Dinwiddie. You have the Wizards, who now don't have their top 3 guys if you include Wall. And then the Magic are just hanging on by dear life. They're not going anywhere with Vucevic and Aaron Gordon. And it's like Milwaukee could probably rest Giannis every game and still maybe only lose 1 game that series.
Dang.
Whoever they play.
That's rough, Jay.
Yeah.
That's rough. Dang.
Yeah. So Jay,
Ooh.
what you got to add to that, man?
Yeah, bro. What's the follow-up? For real, for real. Nah, but so I have to agree. First of all, I mean, it's been a lot of news coming out about guys wanting to sit out. I mean, a lot of the guys since the last time we talked, Avery Bradley, Dinwiddie, like you said before, Bradley Beal being like the biggest one who's taken over things as of this week, being probably the most notable person not returning. As a Wizards fan, I have to say this is the most irritating time of basketball I've ever seen in my life. I found out a couple of weeks ago that no matter what the circumstances are, we are slotted at the number 9 overall pick in the NBA draft this upcoming year, regardless of the circumstances. We could fall out of the playoffs and not have a postseason at all and be number 9. And we could get smacked by, I guess, Milwaukee's second unit, according to Jake, and still mess around and have the 9th overall pick. As a team that needs a huge, that needs to add pieces, to be slotted now number 9 overall in a lose-lose scenario with a draft like this one that's coming up that's very deep, but there's not a lot of difference makers, to be at 9 is the worst thing that could have happened. The worst thing that could have happened. And to know that playoffs or not, that's exactly what's going to happen is bizarre to me. But I will say that regardless, as the season continues to approach and as we continue to learn more things, I feel like my biggest thing right now is just I've just really enjoyed looking at how the season return looks. They did release earlier this past week a lot the 8 games schedules for each team in terms of what their last 8 game regular season will look like. And there's a lot of pretty highly anticipated games, like the Lakers playing the Pelicans at one point and things like that we'll really be able to enjoy before things get even more heated and when the playoffs start. So, I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have been dropping like flies in terms of not wanting to participate in this comeback. And it does make me question whether or not this comeback is really that deep. It also does make me question whether or not bringing back 22 teams was really that serious, or if we could have just kind of handled this the way everybody anticipated by just bringing back the teams that mattered. These are things that Jake said when we first started this podcast, and I'm starting to reap what I sow by not listening earlier.
You see?
But
because people
it's one of those things where, but on the Positivity podcast, bro, with the way I'm thinking of it is there's no way I'm trying to think, okay, when the season comes back, it's gonna, we're gonna be solid. But it's looking back at it now, it's I can't wait for tip-off to come back regardless of what the circumstances are. But I will say that this has been a really weird couple of weeks in terms of as we're coming up on the day where things are finally going to pop off, being the 30th. So I'm still super excited, but I don't know. It's looking weirder and weirder every day.
It was a stupid call, and I think that they were just, again, it's like a lot of people during this quarantine, they felt the pressure. And they just was like, hey, let's figure out what we can do just to make the best out of a crappy-ass situation. And to me, I'm glad I'm not in the decision-making role for anything that's going on with the NBA or going on with a big franchise like that. And it's just we have to be considerate of it. Like, with the coronavirus and everything like that, to get even some more news of what's going on with that, like recently we saw states shut down altogether. Like, we're getting reports every single day that these states are popping up with more and more positive cases of coronavirus and everything like that. Now, Jay, me and you already graduated, so we're good. Our graduation. We even got like notice of our graduation today. I don't know if you filled out your paperwork.
Yeah, I got the thing early. I got to finish it later.
Yeah, I already ordered my cap and gown and did all of that. Just because I was like, you know what? Since I went through all this bullshit, I might as well walk.
Oh, I got those. Yeah, there was some registration thing earlier. I didn't read it, but I'll look at it.
Yeah, no, you gotta register I think by next week, because they're only
right.
a limited number of people walk across stage or something like that. Which is, we not even gonna get into that.
Yeah,
we're not even gonna get into
different podcast, bro.
Different podcast was there. But yeah, like, Jake, you're going to Towson next semester, and you're going to be in classes with other people. Like, how is that going? Like, how you feel about that? Like, do you feel like they should just cap it at online courses for the rest of the semester, or for the whole semester, or like, how you feel, man?
I mean, I think I might just do online anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not getting on, like, I already got denied on campus housing. I don't really see a point in commuting if I'm gonna have to come home and shower and wash my clothes, because the opening of the country, like you said, is just so premature. We're still surging in cases.
Yeah, we are.
And people are disregarding that and saying, oh, well, the restaurant opened back up, so why don't we go there? And I don't know if it's worth it.
On Facebook and Instagram, man, don't get me, yo. These are some idiots. I'm really saying that. Whoever you are, if you're watching this and you're on Facebook flexing about being at a damn restaurant right now with everything going on, you're an idiot. I'm saying it. I said it. It is what it is. You can roast me in the comment section. I don't give a damn. Man, anyway, you're an idiot, because you know that this stuff is going on. Like, we know it. We know it. It's like we're trying to evade the fact that we have this whole like disease out here that are literally crippling people who are our age category, who are healthy and stuff like that. Making claims, oh, well, it's like the flu and it's like all this other stuff. I'm like, well, the flu. Well, I remember the flu can't drop somebody who's like 300 pounds onto their knees where they're screaming for their mom and stuff. Well, I don't know. Probably not. But
and
I've seen
that's
people,
what worries. That's what worries me with the NBA, is that you hear all these stories about people that are like, oh yeah, like I got the virus out of my system 2 months ago, but I'm still having trouble breathing. I'm still feeling all these after effects. And it's like, if you're asking a guy who already tested positive for the virus to go out and play in a 60-minute game, or I guess 48-minute game, like, I don't know if that's doable for them. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a struggle for the guys that are already like still feeling the after effects, especially because shortness of breath is one of them. Like, the NBA is one of the most taxing sports on your physical health. It takes a lot to go out there and try hard if you're a superstar playing 40 minutes a game, and
especially that cardio.
It's going to be rough for a lot of guys.
Especially that cardio that it don't. You have to have wind. That's like basic physiology. You have to have some wind in you to be able to play 40 minutes. I know some people don't play all 40 minutes, but somebody on that squad is going to be playing 40 minutes. So, it's one of those things. So how you feeling, Jay?
I mean, overall, I feel like we've touched on safety a lot in terms of all of this. So, it's one of those things where we kind of just have to see how things continue to go. It's kind of just rough at this point, but I also do feel like, Antoine, kind of like you said beforehand, I maybe I'm not as passionately angry about it as you are, but in terms of the idea of like beating the dead horse on knowing that certain stuff is still not great right now, but people are trying to make light of certain situations and things like that, or trying to still maintain the living my best life mentality, which is great. Law of attraction says that you're supposed to, think about the things that are positive in order to get positive things back. So, you flexing on Instagram at a restaurant because you haven't been to one in months, it feel a little good. But when you factor in safety and things like that too, it makes you wonder where your priorities are. But like Jake said too beforehand, like when you associate that with, the NBA and basketball in general, like, again, it's weird because we have to look at this from a fan perspective while also knowing that this is a business move that they're making to bring the season back the way they are. So, I mean, we can only beat the dead horse so many times when we're talking about exactly what the play is. We also cannot, change people's minds. They have to be smart enough to do what they got to do. In terms of the league, I'm just hoping that they play things as safely as they can. And Adam Silver has made it clear that if the cases in terms of NBA players gets too ridiculous, then, the idea of canceling the season is still on the table, which, considering there already are 32 cases, I think, out of everybody that has been tested just in the last week, there's still a possibility that the season may not come back, but I would hope that, we can be as optimistic in that regard as possible. So, yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's been great talking to you as usual every week. And I hope that everyone who watched today's podcast got a lot of fun, was entertained, and got some good knowledge about what's going on in the basketball world. And today, our question of the day is, what is your favorite memory of Kobe Bryant? Comment in the comment section below and let us know. I'm Antoine. This is the J&J Connection, Jay and Jake. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share on all your social medias. And we'll see you next week on the B.O.P. Buckets Only podcast.